The church air hung thick with the scent of lilies and anticipation, a fragile bubble of joy about to burst. I stood at the altar, Leo, my best friend since we were 5, grinning like an idiot beside me. My heart hammered against my ribs, not just with the usual pre-ceremony nerves, but with a secret dread coiling in my gut. Liam, my best man, the brother I chose, had been acting off. Distant during the rehearsal dinner, his usual booming laugh replaced by a tight smile, his eyes avoiding mine when I tried to thank him for everything. I'd chalked it up to stress, to the immense pressure of organizing the biggest day of my life. But now, as the organ swelled and the doors opened, revealing Emma, my radiant bride floating down the aisle on her father's arm, a cold sweat prickled my neck. Liam stood beside me, rigid, his jaw clenched, his gaze fixed not on Emma, but on the ornate Bible held by the officiant. A flicker of something dark and unreadable passed over his face, gone in an instant, replaced by a practiced, supportive smile as he met my eyes. But I'd seen it, and the dread solidified into a cold, heavy stone in my stomach. The ceremony began, the officiant's voice a soothing drone, but my focus was fractured. Every word felt like a step closer to a precipice I couldn't see. Then came the vows. The moment I'd rehearsed 100 times, pouring my heart onto paper, promising Emma forever, promising to cherish, protect, and love her unconditionally. I reached into the inner pocket of my tuxedo jacket, my fingers closing around the familiar, cream-colored cardstock. I pulled it out, unfolded it, and froze. The words weren't mine. They weren't the heartfelt, clumsy, deeply personal declarations I'd agonized over. They were typed, pristine, utterly alien. My eyes scanned the first line, my blood turning to ice. I promise to honor the truth, even when it shatters the illusion of happiness. What? My gaze snapped to Liam. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking straight ahead, his knuckles white where he gripped the ring pillow. A muscle twitched in his cheek. Panic, raw and suffocating, clawed up my throat. The officiant paused, sensing my hesitation, a gentle, encouraging smile on his face. Leo, he prompted softly. The entire church seemed to hold its breath. Emma's radiant smile faltered slightly, confusion flickering in her eyes. I looked from the traitorous card in my trembling hand to Liam's stony profile, then to Emma's questioning face. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. I had to say something. I couldn't just stand there. My voice, when it came, was a strangled whisper. I promise. I forced my eyes back to the card, the words swimming before me. To acknowledge the pain I've caused, the trust I've broken beneath the facade of friendship. My own voice sounded foreign, distant. Liam flinched, almost imperceptibly, but I saw it. A flicker of satisfaction. No, that couldn't be right. To confess the secret that has poisoned our bond, a secret born of jealousy and deceit that festered in the shadow of your perfect love. Jealousy? What secret? My mind raced, fragments of the past few months flashing, Liam's sudden distance, his pointed comments about Emma's career overshadowing mine, his strange possessiveness about our shared history. I stand here today, not just as your best man, Leo, but as the architect of your doubt. The vows you hold are not yours. They are mine. My confession. The card slipped from my numb fingers, fluttering to the polished floor like a wounded bird. Gasps rippled through the congregation. Emma's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with dawning horror. Leo, my rock, looked from the fallen card to Liam, his face a mask of utter disbelief and betrayal. Liam. Leo breathed, his voice cracking. What is this? Liam finally turned, his face pale but set, his eyes burning with a ferocity I'd never seen. It's the truth, Leo, he said, his voice loud and clear, carrying through the stunned silence. The truth you were too blind, too happy to see. He took a step forward, away from the altar, facing Leo directly. You remember Sarah? My Sarah? The one I loved more than anything? Leo looked utterly lost. Sarah? From college? Liam, that was years ago. Yes. Liam's voice cracked. Years ago. And you remember how she ended it? Said she needed space? Said she had feelings for someone else? Leo nodded slowly, confusion warring with dawning comprehension. Liam, It was you, Leo. Liam's shout echoed in the vaulted ceiling. She left me for you. She told me she'd fallen in love with you. That night after the graduation party, when you were both drunk, when you comforted her because I'd missed her call. The world tilted. Vague, hazy memories surfaced. A party, too much cheap champagne. Sarah crying on my shoulder about feeling neglected by Liam. A brief, drunken kiss I'd instantly regretted, sworn never to speak of, convinced it meant nothing. A mistake fueled by alcohol and her vulnerability. I'd buried it deep, ashamed, convinced it was a momentary lapse Liam would never, ever need to know about. She told me everything the next day. Liam spat, his voice thick with years of suppressed agony. How you kissed her, how you said you'd always cared. She chose me, Leo. She chose me, but the damage was done. The trust was shattered. We limped along for another year, but it was over. She left me broken because of you. Leo looked like he'd been physically struck. He staggered back a step, his face ashen. Liam, I don't. I was drunk. It was a mistake. Sarah never said. She didn't want to hurt you more. Liam yelled. She made me promise not to tell. Said it would destroy our friendship. And I kept that promise, Leo. For 10 years, I carried this poison. Watched you build your perfect life, find your perfect Emma, while I died a little inside every time I saw you happy. Every time you called me your best friend. He turned his burning gaze to me. And you, Emma. So perfect. So trusting. Did you know? Did you know the man you're about to marry is a liar? A thief who stole the woman his best man loved? Emma's face was a canvas of shock and pain, tears streaming freely. She shook her head mutely, unable to speak. Leo found his voice, raw and trembling. Liam, why? Why now? Why like this? To destroy everything? Because you don't get to have it all. Liam's voice rose, echoing with a decade of bitterness. You don't get to steal my happiness and then sail off into your sunset without consequence. You stood there today, about to pledge your life to her, built on a foundation of lies. I couldn't let it happen. I couldn't let you stand there and lie to her, to everyone, pretending to be the perfect man when you're the one who broke me. He gestured wildly at the fallen Vows. Those words, they were my agony, my truth. I swapped your cards last night, Leo. While you were busy reassuring Emma, I was rewriting your promises into my confession. I wanted you to feel it. I wanted her to feel it. I wanted everyone to see the cracks in your perfect facade. The silence that followed was deafening, thick with the weight of shattered illusions and exposed pain. Leo stared at Liam, his best friend, his brother, seeing a stranger consumed by a decade-old wound he hadn't known he'd inflicted so deeply. He looked at Emma, her face etched with betrayal, not just at the long-ago kiss, but at the secret kept, the lie lived. He looked at me, his best man, the man who had orchestrated this public crucifixion. The officiate stood frozen, unsure how to proceed. Guests stared, open-mouthed, some crying, others whispering furiously. Leo slowly bent down, his movements stiff, and picked up the fallen card, Liam's card. He read the words again, his lips moving silently. Then he looked at Liam, his eyes filled not with anger, but with a profound, soul-deep sadness. Liam, Leo said, his voice hollow. I am so sorry. For Sarah. For the pain. For not knowing. For not seeing how much it hurt you. He took a shaky breath. It was a mistake, Liam. A terrible, drunken mistake I regretted instantly. I never meant to. I never wanted to hurt you. I loved Sarah like a sister, but it was never what she thought. It was never what you fear. Liam's defiant posture wavered slightly, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. She said. She was hurt, Liam. Leo interrupted gently. She was confused. Maybe she wanted to hurt me back, or maybe she truly believed it meant more than it did. But it didn't. It was a single, stupid, regrettable moment. It didn't define us. It doesn't define now. He looked at Emma, who was watching him, her expression unreadable beneath the tears. Emma, I should have told you. Years ago, I was ashamed. I was afraid of losing you. I was a coward. I am so deeply sorry. Emma didn't speak. She just looked at him, her eyes searching his face, the weight of the secret pressing down on them both. Leo turned back to Liam. What you did today, Liam, it was cruel. It was vicious. You didn't just expose me. You humiliated Emma. You destroyed our wedding. You destroyed us. His voice cracked. Was it worth it? Does this chaos, does it heal your pain? Or does it just spread it? Liam stared at Leo, the fire in his eyes slowly dimming. replaced by a dawning horror at the devastation he had wrought. He looked at Emma's tear-streaked face, at the stunned congregation, at the ruins of the beautiful ceremony. The righteous anger that had fueled him for weeks, for years, seemed to drain away, leaving behind a hollow emptiness and a chilling realization of the irreversible damage he had caused. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He looked utterly lost, the architect of his own isolation. Leo held Liam's gaze for a long moment, the history of their friendship flashing between them. Childhood adventures, teenage heartbreaks, shared dreams, and now, this chasm of betrayal and pain. Then, Leo slowly, deliberately, tore the card, Liam's confession, in half. Then in quarters. He let the pieces flutter to the floor like snow. He turned to the officiant, his face etched with exhaustion and sorrow. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice barely audible. "This wedding, it's over." He took Emma's hand. She flinched slightly, but didn't pull away. He looked at her, his eyes pleading. "Emma, I love you. I have always loved you. What I did was wrong. What I kept from you was wrong. But what Liam did, that changes nothing about how I feel about you. Only about how I failed you." Emma looked from Leo's desperate face to the pieces of paper on the floor, then to Liam, who stood frozen, his face a mask of regret and dawning self-loathing. The silence stretched, thick with unbearable tension. Would she walk away? Could she ever forgive him? Could any of them come back from this? Emma slowly pulled her hand from Leo's grasp. His face crumpled, but she didn't turn to leave. Instead, she looked directly at Liam, her voice trembling but clear, cutting through the suffocating silence. "Liam," she said, her eyes blazing with a cold fury that dwarfed his earlier anger. "You wanted the truth? You wanted to shatter the illusion? Fine. But you forgot one crucial thing." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. "You weren't the only one who knew Leo's secret." Liam's head snapped up, confusion warring with the dread already in his eyes. Emma took a step towards him, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the church. "Leo told me, 6 months ago, after your mother died, when he saw how deep your unhappiness went, how it was eating you alive. He told me everything. About Sarah, about the kiss, about his guilt and his fear of losing you. We decided together to wait, to let you heal, to find the right time to tell you gently, with love, not accusation." Liam looked utterly poleaxed, the color draining from his face. His carefully constructed narrative of Leo's oblivious deceit crumbled into dust. You knew?" He stammered, looking from Emma to Leo. "You both knew?" Leo nodded slowly, his eyes filled with a weary sadness. "We knew, Liam. We were trying to protect you. To protect us." Emma's voice hardened again, laced with a chilling finality. "And those vows you so proudly wrote. Your confession?" She gave a short, humorless laugh. "They weren't just yours, Liam. Leo and I wrote them. Together. Last night. After you left the rehearsal dinner in another one of your dark moods. We knew something was wrong. We knew you were planning something. So we wrote a new set of vows. Vows that acknowledged the past, the pain, the mistakes. Vows that promised honesty moving forward, no matter how hard. Vows that promised to face the darkness together, not let it fester." She gestured to the torn pieces on the floor. "You didn't swap Leo's vows, Liam. You swapped our vows. Vows meant to start healing the very wound you just ripped open again in front of everyone. You didn't expose Leo's secret. You exposed your own festering bitterness and your capacity for profound cruelty. You didn't destroy Leo's lies. You destroyed any chance of reconciliation with your actions today." Liam stared at her, then at Leo, his mouth agape. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He hadn't been the clever puppet master exposing a hidden truth. He'd been the pawn, playing right into the hands of the very people he sought to destroy, delivering their message of honesty and unity in the most destructive way possible. He hadn't shattered their illusion. He'd shattered himself, revealing the depth of his own twisted obsession and the emptiness of his revenge. The silence that followed was absolute, heavier than before, filled not just with shock and pain, but with the profound, tragic irony of Liam's self-destruction. He stood alone at the altar, the best man who had become the villain, the architect of his own isolation, his carefully plotted revenge having accomplished nothing but exposing the rotten core of his own heart and destroying the last vestiges of the friendship he claimed to cherish. Leo and Emma stood together, not as a perfect couple, but as two people bound by a shared trauma and a fragile, hard-won honesty. Their wedding in ruins, but perhaps, just perhaps, their future together forged anew in the crucible of this unimaginable betrayal. The congregation watched, breathless, witnessing not just the end of a wedding, but the catastrophic implosion of a lifelong friendship, leaving behind only wreckage and the chilling echo of Emma's final, devastating revelation. Liam hadn't changed Leo's vows to expose a secret. He had unknowingly delivered their own carefully crafted message of truth, turning his intended weapon into the instrument of his own utter and complete undoing. The camera slowly zoomed in on Liam's face, frozen in an expression of horrified epiphany, the last image before the screen faded to black, leaving the audience reeling from the ultimate, devastating twist.